That's really bizarre. We're talking about actually like a body transplant, a body transplant.
Well, no, a head to head.
Oh.
You transplant a head onto somebody else.
Well,
You take the head of a live person,
right, so that
and
would
you
be
put it
body
onto
transplant.
a dead person,
Not a
and then
head
the dead
transplant.
body would come alive as your life from your brain gets it. I don't know.
Right, they give you a working, healthy body.
There was a
Donated-
guy in 1954 who tried to transplant a dog's head. Vladimir Demikov.
Well, that just creeps me out. Poor dog.
Well, I wonder. I guess I never checked, but I'm assuming if that would have worked, we would have probably heard about it.
We probably would have heard about it by now. Yeah.
This is some Frankenstein stuff, and they're saying that this guy should be able to do this. At least he's saying he can do it by 2017.
With some practice. So, sign up now.
Sign.
It's kind of like going to Mars. You can go to Mars with us. You'd never be
Exactly.
able to come back. And you have your own place there. That's kind of one of those deals where you get there and you're like, this isn't what I bargained for. Well, but you can't get back, so what you going to do? Who are you going to complain to?
Yeah, well, if you take my head off and I'm laying there going, well, it's not really what I bargained for. It reminds me of that show on that cartoon show that Matt Kroenig did called Futurama, where they have all those heads of people in jars,
Right.
Like Nixon's head,
that are
and
like still
Spock's
living.
head, yeah,
Hey, what's going on?
yeah. I think that's where we're going here.
Yeah.
Matt
pretty much.
Groening was a prophet.
Yeah, he was. Little did he know that his bizarro future was the default future that's going to happen.
Welcome to the Bill and Jason Show. I'm Bill Hermann,
I'm Jason Jones.
and welcome again to another edition of Silliness.
As we're trying to figure out, like, exactly what makes you who you are. If you have a brand new body, just put your head in a brand new body. That would sure change the way people, like, diet and take care of themselves. It's all right. I'll eat more pizza. I'll just get a new body. I'm saving up for one.
Become Jabba the Hutt, and then I can just get the next bodybuilder's body and put my head on it.
Jabba the Hutt was not on any body. He was a big blob of
Yeah, exactly. I would just eat until I'm Pizza the Hut.
Can you imagine like Jabba's head on some Adonis? Like,
Yes, I can. Oh yeah, baby. Down.
ridiculous.
Hey, my phone is ringing. Someone should answer that. Stop it.
We are just coming off of the glow of what was Mobile Beat 2015.
Oh, I just woke up.
Wow, I know.
Talk about a nap I had coming home.
Yeah, I just started to get sleepy. Like
We had,
off the adrenaline rush of it all. It's
Monday
an
and
unbelievable
Tuesday
experience.
and Wednesday and Thursday of just craziness, man.
It was an incredible experience. The turnout was incredible.
Yeah, it
I think
really
there was
was.
almost 700 people there that turned out for it. And
Thousands of people.
It was
Tens of thousands
It was
of
just
people.
an incredible experience. And I thought what would be good for this episode is actually to talk about a question that some people might have, because we referenced the entertainment experience workshop while we were doing it.
Of course.
So and in the creation of it, we used all the tools that we used in the entertainment experience to create this conference.
Absolutely.
And so it was kind of like a really great demonstration of this is how it works and this is the result you can produce.
And if it had been a failure, we wouldn't be talking about this.
No, we would be talking about like how I don't know what we'd be talking about, but something completely different.
Well, and the whole process, honestly, it started almost a full year ago when the producer of the show called us and asked us to speak, and then it turned into, if you're going to speak, can you do this? And all of a sudden it kind of evolved into, what if you guys were the designers and the hosts of the entire program? And that's when we went, well, we got this workshop we do, and we use this on a regular basis with the events that we do. Why wouldn't it work directly with any event? That's what we've always said it would.
Well, it does work with every event.
It came down to kind of putting our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, I've used all the tools in the nonprofit events to raise more money for people. I've done it in my comedy variety show brand that I ran for a while, and all of that, and of course then weddings, which is what it was originally designed for.
Right.
So why don't we just go through? Let's kind of go through the components that we go through of the workshop, and then how we applied those particular components to the to the whole conference as a whole.
Well, and I think the first component we have to speak to is when we had that first conversation with the producer around what he wanted it to be, what he kind of envisioned, and then from that, what we envisioned from that, how it could be bigger, and how we might be able to interject how we do things into his vision to make his vision something else or even bigger, and that was really around the intention.
Yeah, it's like and that really speaks to like the first part of the workshop where we really talk about story and narratives, where you really decide what you're creating from. So that we weren't just picking out like, oh, we're just going to have lights and we'll have speakers and we'll have like, because possibilities are limitless when you just start thinking all the things you could do. But then you don't have any grasp on what the outcome is going to be. So we actually started with the outcome first of what we wanted to have created. Right.
And the value, the values that we wanted to portray, the intention that we wanted this whole thing to speak to. And that was the foundation that answered every question from there.
Yeah, it really, really was.
And that really was the celebration of we call it the celebration of the DJ, but honestly, creating something that was available to the people who came to the show as theirs. Like, this is your week. This is all about you. Because we're always, whenever we work, it's never really about us. It's about our clients, right?
So exactly.
We wanted this whole thing to be about these people and about what we do and what's possible in what we do and all the best of all those things. So it really became a celebration of the attendees.
Yeah, it totally was. It totally was a celebration of the DJ, and it was also intended to be aspirational. We wanted to design it and work with what we consider are the best in the industry to really show what's possible to everybody that shows up. You know what I mean? To have them see Jason Jan I perform and be like, wow, that's incredible mixing, and really like every time he played, he did what I always talk about in terms of taking people on a musical journey.
That plus being able to make sure that bringing the best to the table was not as it was about, I suppose, about showing what's possible, but really, once again, if we spoke from, this is a celebration of these people and it's for them. Why wouldn't we put on just as great a show for them as we would for anybody else? So here you go. Here's your gift, man. You get to be a guest and be blown away by what's possible as an audience member, which is something none of us get a chance to do. Hardly ever, especially circling in and around what we do and with our own peers. And on that stage, and Jason Jan, he's one of our peers, but man, we were able to really be entertained by him instead of have to study it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or all the above. However, you just wanted to have it wash over you.
Right.
It's just to experience that. And then what Jeremy Breck brought to lighting, one of the big areas that DJ businesses are taking over is decor lighting.
Right.
That's a huge niche that they're really starting to command in a really big way. And we're seeing it with other professional companies, and we're seeing really the pictures especially like really impressive stuff. And Jeremy's been a huge leader in that, and it was crucial to not just have, let's just get a lighting designer, but let's get a DJ who's really an amazing lighting designer, who's really taken this on as a big segment of the business and like really kind of showing like what's possible with that.
Right.
And he really, really brought that as well, and really kind of like immersing everybody in what was possible.
Right, and being that team person who helped to create that stage that wowed everyone.
Yes.
You got to come to a show, and not only did you see it from the perspective as a peer and someone who saw what, I've done that, I've seen that sort of thing, but, everybody in the room went, whoa, as opposed to, a blank stage with the house lights and a microphone and speakers in the ceiling, and somebody saying on a PowerPoint, this is what I do and this is what you could do. Right. Instead, we actually showed people something amazing, and even if you weren't there to actually study that, you got to be really entertained by that because he really brought it. It was great.
Yeah, it was really incredible. Well, the opportunity was to do both, because there was the workshop that he did afterwards to go, okay, so this is how we did what we did here.
Right.
That really like like really brought it home and created ideas of what we could. So it was that learning environment was maintained. It wasn't just entertaining, but it was also kind of creating that learning environment, which was another intention that we had, is that people would it would be really valuable content, like really really valuable in that respect, and we wouldn't compromise that in creating the show. And speaking to that, and speaking to it as a whole, one of our goals was to have the whole of the show be greater than its parts.
Yes.
So that it wouldn't be about just one speaker or hanging our hat on, well, we have Penn Jillette, so, you know, the rest doesn't
Forget
matter.
about that other stuff. It's just filler.
It was like the entire show was its own personality. And these intentions are speaking to the entire show.
Right.
You know, so it's like, so as we started putting things in, and as we created the opening to the show, and as we created these things and placed them, they all had to answer to those intentions. In other words, it had to be either creating something aspirational. It had to be either connecting them to DJs to each other, or connecting them to Mobile Beat itself,
or to their businesses and what's possible in that.
Exactly, and what's possible in the future and that sort of thing. It had to answer to those things, or it didn't make it.
Right.
You know, because we bandied about lots of ideas, and there's lots of ideas that were left out because it's like they didn't line up perfectly with this.
Right.
And that's how you end up with something really, really cohesive. And if we apply that to just even that alone at weddings, and thinking about weddings, and you're with a client and talking about, like, what do they want to experience?
Right.
What do they want to have?
Well, I want to do this, but does that really speak to what's important? Or are we just filling the afternoon, the dinner, and the dance with a bunch of things because we're good at them? Or did we put it in because it meant something to the overall thing?
Right. Like, what are you committed to? Are you committing to doing fun games, or are you committing to creating an outcome that your client has stated that they wanted?
Right.
You know, and that you've not that they necessarily know that you like drew that out of them to see exactly what they wanted. Like, is family really important? Is it really important that people be connected? Is it really important that people be engaged? Like, what's really important? Like, figure that out.
Well, even, you know, and a great example of that is lighting at a wedding. One light, well placed with purpose and meaning, and can do more than all the lights in the world in the room. Just because you got all the lights in the world, you shouldn't use them. You should be using everything for a reason and a purpose. And we did that with every speaker. We did that with the way what time everything started and what time everything was done.
Because everything started late, 1 o'clock the first day and 10 o'clock every day after that.
Right, and was done by 2 o'clock every day, except of course for the first day, which went, you know, I think about 3 hours, didn't it?
Yeah.
But even that was everything was intentional. We didn't just throw stuff at it because we thought, well, here's another thing, let's do it. We wanted to be sure it was really, everything should wow. I think when it came to speakers, we thought, if we're going to have a speaker, every one of them should be as a good enough speaker to be the keynote.
Yes.
No matter where they were, no matter what day, we have a keynote speaker.
Yeah, that's what Mike Bonacorso brought that forward with, like, this is what I've got so far. This is the idea that I've got so far that I'm doing with this show. Now where do we go? And kind of backing up to our conversation with Mike, what got me the most excited about when we were entertaining the idea of working together was him saying, I want to start over. I don't want to do like, oh, let's do like this or not like this, or this like this or not like that of past shows. We didn't talk about any past shows at all. We just said, if we're just going to start over right now, what would we do? And then we started playing and looking and asking and entertaining ideas. And of course, then once we narrowed it down to expect what our goals were, then we could focus on that.
Which is one of the things that the entertainment experience works so well with. It's, you know, we talk to our students on a regular basis about using the tools of the entertainment experience to deconstruct who you are and what you do now, so that you can reconstruct it again around these principles. Not so that you can do a routine like I do or you do, not that you can learn a brand new thing, but to deconstruct and then reconstruct from a different point of view. And when you do get a chance, like we did with Mike, to work from a blank canvas, then the possibilities are just crazy endless.
Well, and every wedding client is an opportunity to start with a blank canvas. You know, and you take into consider their priorities, and then, you know, make suggestions around that. You know, it's one of the reasons I think that we won't book anybody unless we can meet with them, because it's like, well, I can't I could sit and list every activity I've ever done, but all of those speak to a specific purpose and a specific goal for a couple. Now let's talk about yours.
Right.
So I can speak to what matters to you, not just give you a laundry list of stuff I could do. Because that by itself, those things by themselves don't mean much.
No, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't necessarily gonna fit into what they already have planned or what they're hoping to see happen.
And when everything has purpose, then a real experience is generated. People get it. They get the purpose, even if they can't tell you exactly what it was. And I think of all the compliments that we got on the show, I think the biggest compliment was hearing our intentions that we had built the show around come back to us and say, I love that this made me be proud to be a DJ again. This, and the things like that we're speaking to those cornerstones that we established, that we built the show around, that we didn't go and say, all right, everybody, here's our intentions.
Right.
So that was incredible. So it all starts with the foundation of the narrative, the story. So, and that thread through all of our transitions and how we set up every speaker and all the way through. Now,
and I think one of the first places that I started looking at was how that room where the speakers are going to be was going to be staged. And staging is a big part of what we do with our workshops and the things that we teach. And that's a theatrical, that comes from the world of theater, about how to stage a room and stage what the action they're going to see in such a way that they're drawn in and are compelled by what's happening.
Yeah. And so one of our big considerations was, because we were talking about having this big stage set up and really like almost having the whole end of the room be the stage for what we were doing,
right?
And as we had the lighting going down the wall that Jeremy had placed, and we had the gobo of Mobile Beat up on the wall at one point, and it really was staged all the way across.
Right.
And the concern was like we don't want the speakers to presenters to
get
look like
lost.
little tiny people
Right.
up there. Hi, I'm on a giant stage, everybody. We wanted to be able to close that in so that the intimacy was there, so people could just be focused in and connected, and our presenters could be larger than life. And then when they were done and we drew back, then to kind of expand out again into Mobile Beat,
right?
Like this is the big show,
right?
Da, 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 da. And that sort of thing. And so that was definitely a consideration in the staging and how it looked, so that it could be drawn in and then pulled out. And we spent quite a bit of time talking with Jeremy about that and how that would be created.
Well, and using the physicality of the stage, where it was going to be, where the screens and the projection was going to happen, on what side of how they were going to be angled and where they were going to be angled, and then with Jeremy and his lighting design, how he was going to use those things to create, like you said, that intimacy, or to give pinpointed focus to one specific spot, regardless of how big the room was.
Right. One thing, a little kind of an aside, one thing I'm really looking forward to is I'm really looking forward to having Jeremy and Jason on the show. And talking to them to share.
You're talking about Jason Janai.
Jason Janai,
our
yes.
DJ.
Yep, our DJ Jason Janai, and then Jeremy Breck, having them on the show to share from their point of view as they were then doing the design from these intentions, what they were thinking about and they were putting into place. Because a lot of...
Other than, oh God, I wish we could just stop it with the Bill and Jason thing. They're just making us crazy.
Because we gave them, there was a lot of freedom for them. It was like, we trust your artistic judgments. You know what we're working from.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of like, well, give it to us to approve. We got to make sure that you're doing it right. No, they were really clear on what the objectives were, what we were building around, and that's really, every time you're doing collaboration, that makes a huge difference.
Well, I think a lot of it, along with the fact that we had two people that we knew had great work.
Yeah.
On top of it, when you have the structure, the theatrical structures in place and the cornerstones in place that we're all speaking to, then it's easier to be able to give away that freedom and not micromanage, because as long as you understand that the core people of the team understand that, then everybody comes back to the center with their ideas. They come to that center value, that center spot where in between where all those cornerstones lie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was pretty great.
Another aspect of the workshop that we spent a lot of time on are transitions. And and transitions were especially important to take everyone from speaker to speaker, as well as creating anticipation through breaks
and surprises around what was going to be happening.
So that you're anticipating the next presenter, and of course then in that always the conversation is like what's going to have them in anticipation, what's going to have them looking forward to the next day or the next thing, or pulling them forward, which again is like speaking to not only give your audience as much information as they need, and trust that they're smart, they're putting things together as they're out there. You don't need to like lay everything out like they're 10.
Exactly.
And
those transitions had to speak to, number one, our core value, our core or our cornerstones. It had to speak to the speaker that we were introducing on top of, it had to talk about the speaker and the purpose we're bringing them around those cornerstones. And from that speaker, we had to speak from their point of view, bringing us back to our main point and our main cornerstones, and that the values of the reasons and the intentions around what we're doing, and then handing it to the next one in such a way that it would be a foregone conclusion that you go from a tech guy to a lawyer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we spent a lot of time on those specific transitions to be able to be sure that this all felt like a foregone conclusion.
Right. Yeah.
And you were excited about the next thing.
Like it was organic and natural and flowed all the way through.
Right.
And that sort of thing. So
plus in that we got a chance to play some.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, it was very, very fun. That was just a blast. I can't wait to look back at the video of you in the dress. And
yes, if you missed it, you missed me cross-dressing.
Our little court thing, and then Ben electrocuting you was of course very, very fun.
Yeah, Ben Stowe. It was funny, when Ben Stowe was asked to speak, one of the first things he talked about was, I've done this before, and sometimes it seems like I either upset people or I lose them. Because he's pretty techie, he talks, kind
of like Mensa genius,
right? Well, and I can't, and I used to think it was, and I didn't want to necessarily put it on whether I understood him or not, because when it comes to the average DJ who knows his gear, I am like, way down there when it comes to that stuff. But when we started playing around with how could we make what he was doing more accessible and keep people engaged and excited and seeing surprises in such a way that they keep moving through his entire presentation as engaged as he always wished them to be, we started playing around with how we could do that, and it came down to Ben wanting to actually bring me on stage and risking my life
and torture you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which I was all in. I'm like, great idea. Let's do that. This will be fantastic. But I mean, even that speaks to like what working with wedding clients, because it's like, they come up with an idea that you want to do something for their uncle, or they want to do something special for their dad, or they want to do, that's not necessarily the silly jokey way that we were doing it, but in whatever way that takes shape, you could look at like, how can we play this out and how can we set it up so it's surprising and fun? Again, we didn't put in the program like, Bill's going to come out and, Ben's going to try to electrocute him. And we didn't tell anybody that. That was for them to discover when they got there. They just knew Ben was going to talk about technology. Much in the same way the wedding, people come there, they know there's going to be dinner, they know there's going to be dance. That's all they need to know.
Right.
And then you can
And normally your
roll
client
this out.
will say to you things like, I've been to a million weddings. I don't want my wedding to be as boring as the last ones I did. Great. Right. Okay, so now how do we talk about that? What's important to you?
What's boring to you?
Right.
And what's exciting to you?
Exactly.
Yeah, and let's define what that is, because I've got my idea of exciting, and it may have nothing to do with your idea.
And I think the only place where we were for sure we knew what we were talking about is with the attorney. Even the attorney knew he was boring.
Well, he wasn't totally boring, actually.
Hi, Rob.
I thought Rob was actually pretty funny in his comments.
I just know he watches the show.
Right? So at least this will be the last show he watches. Thanks, Bill. I thought we were trying to get more viewers.
Well, you know how it is. I mean, we want people to. We knew that an attorney and Rob himself was really an interesting guy. But when you hear, okay, we're going to go do a session on law,
right? It's
on
like
DJ
liability,
law.
to not glaze over.
I don't want to do the.
Yeah.
So
it's tough to make it sexy,
right? And if there's anything that makes an attorney talk sexy, is a big guy in a dress.
Exactly. And then the last thing that we actually spent a whole day on, well, no, I shouldn't, not the last thing. So listening. So listening was really, really key, and not just in listening to the feedback of what we heard DJs really, really wanted, what they were really hungry for. And they don't just, you know, when people tell you what they want, they don't tell you, like, make your show like this.
Right.
They give you, like, things that are like, oh, you know, I want it to be more exciting, or I want it to be, like, you know, surprising, or why isn't the sound better? Or,
and that listening was a good year-long process.
Yeah, it was really was a year-long process. And that was in the creation of it. And then when it was getting up and performing it, then it was like listening to what's happening in the audience. Like there was a moment where after Mark Farrell completed, where he really invited people to step into leadership.
Right.
And everybody went and got on the stage.
Right. They were so moved by stepping into it. They stepped into his space on the stage in such a way that we were afraid that we were all going to die.
That it was going to collapse the stage. It's like, as we're thinking, like, how much weight will this hold? And are we going to find out?
Right.
But at the same time, like, they all went up there, and Jason was kind of just playing some music soft in the background to kind of go with it. So he was listening to the audience, listening to what's time, because this was a big moment that was happening. I mean, people were really being moved and thinking about, like, that this could be something that was... that it could still can be something that was like shifting, a cornerstone that shifted the industry, like where we made another leap forward of people stepping into leadership. The last thing we want to do is cut that off. Like people get on the stage and go, okay, well, that's it. Well, we'll see you after lunch.
Right.
And then run off and completely disregard like what's happening. And that happens a lot at weddings. So just as well as it is knowing what to say, it's also knowing when to keep your mouth shut and let something breathe. And because there we were, you were on one side of the stage. I couldn't see the audience. You were kind of toward the front. I was toward the back. I was going to do the transition. I'm standing with my mic going like, okay, I'm letting this breathe, but I can't see anything. And I'm like, okay, I hope Bill can see. And then I finally heard you say, you know, hey, let's take a break. And
well, actually, before we even took a break, we took an entire crowd photograph, which was really cool.
I know that because that was our plan. Our plan was after this, we're going to like, all right, everybody, let's do a selfie. But unpredictable, we didn't anticipate that everyone's going to come and stand on the stage and see if they could collapse it. So as we tried to get some people down off the stage, we did move a few people, and then it was just becoming a time thing where it's like, okay, let's take the selfie to also kind of take advantage of the moment. Like, let's commemorate this moment because I think things are going to change from now forward. Like really validating that something is really happening here because that's what everyone was feeling in the room. Right. You know, they were really feeling like, you know, like taking that ownership and taking it on. And sometimes that's all, most of the time, all it takes is a conversation. Exactly. You look at the biggest movements in time, they all began with a powerful conversation and then started to grow and expand from there as that conversation continued. And Mark started an incredibly powerful conversation, anew at this conference.
It not only moved them emotionally, but it moved them physically to take an action.
Yes.
And if they did it in that room, then the next thing they're going to do is take that action outside into their life and their world. It was pretty cool.
So that really required us as hosts to listen to the audience and where it was at. So we didn't either crush the moment or let it go on too long. So everybody's like, well, what do we do? What now?
Exactly. And that was a great example because we didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
Everything we created, we tried to make sure we knew what the next thing, giving enough space to be able to have something happen, to have happy accidents take place, and we had plenty of them. That was probably the biggest and most dramatic of them for the entire week. But that was really something. And if we had not had that structure in place, we would have been, I don't know what to do. Where are we going to be? What's the next thing? So
exactly.
It worked out really well.
Yeah, we always knew where we were going to go next. And then if something shifts in the moment, it's just a matter of like paying attention to what's happening in the moment and then deciding, well, what's the best way to go forward? If maybe our initial plan, which I was going to come out and go, well, that was this, and now we got a break coming up, and I'm going to build anticipation for the next speaker. Well, that wasn't available because of what just happened organically. Right. So we were going with it and that sort of thing, which again made it feel like really natural and organic, and everybody felt good about like what they did and what they created in that moment. It became a collaboration, which that's how weddings go. That is how weddings go. More often than not, that's how they go in terms of like you have your set intention, but sometimes, you know, Aunt June will get up and do her thing and you'll be like, okay, we're rolling with this.
One of the cool things about the planning process as well is as we were planning it, we were talking about its intention and how great that core idea of celebrating the disc jockey and making this about the people coming more about the people coming than about the whole idea itself. Right. And as that got bigger, it was amazing to both of us how big things showed up in its planning process. And one of the biggest things that showed up is a conversation I was having around what we were creating with a friend of mine here in Minneapolis by the name of Carl Hagerman, who in fact was one of our speakers. And that was built out of the fact that Carl and I were talking at lunch about, he's saying, what are you doing? And I said, well, what are you doing? And then when he told me about all of his cool things, I said, well, I'm working on Mobile Beat. And, oh, yeah, I know what Mobile Beat is. And what are you doing? And I explained to him kind of the whole big process and how huge a thing we had created. Yeah. And within that, we were both reminded of his relationship with Penn Jillette in Las Vegas. And one little mention about, I wonder if, and do you know, and kind of, sort of, and both of us weren't even sure if it was going to happen. But because we were creating such a big thing, within a week, we had Penn Jillette saying, well, that sounds pretty cool. I think I'd like to do that.
Yeah, right.
And within a month, we had a contract signed to have one of the most famous entertainers in the world come and speak to our DJ conference. Right. And on top of that, bringing Carl Hagerman, who is a world-class speaker himself, attach himself to this conference as well. So that speaks to being able to look at what you have in a really big way, regardless of how many people you think you might be having.
Well, and stand in anything is possible.
Yeah.
Without predetermining, like, oh, we couldn't do that. If we started this thing with like, oh, we can't do that.
No, we could never get
all the lists with that you can have. It's kind of like, there's a way of living, and there's the default human way of doing it is to figure out what you want. First, make a list of everything you don't want.
Right.
And then take what's left. Well, that's like, honestly, I've lived that way a long time. And that is a really constrictive way of living, and you generally feel like you just settle no matter what, and that's just how life's got to be.
Which simply could have been, hey, what do you think if we could get Penn Jillette at a DJ conference? Anybody in that conversation would have been no.
Right.
And then there it is. Boom, it's done.
And it's the moment someone says that could never happen, well, then everyone goes, okay, let's make it so. And guess what? It gets proven. Yeah. It's like, it really works that way. And then finally, the last part of the entertainment experience, the 2-day Power to Create workshop, is in performance coaching, and really our emphasis on authenticity.
Right.
And for us to really come out on stage and authentically be with everybody who are our peers.
Right. And we that was our intention. That whole idea of actually being with as opposed to being afraid of or trying to perform to was really how we came.
Superior to, or try any of all those kind of things that come out of fear and insecurity.
And that was our goal. Our goal was to step out with our friends, with our peers, not over or below or afraid of or freaked out or extra blown up. We just wanted to be with everybody, and hopefully that's exactly how it was. We showed up.
Experience, yeah. I think it was. It's as people would acknowledge me in the hall and things like that. I was like, I will take that compliment for the group.
Yeah,
thank you, because this was a huge collaboration that I got to play a part of. And thank you for that. And it was like, thank you for sharing in this with us.
Right.
Because it was like a blast, the most gratifying experience to be able to create something this big. And then to be able to share in it with the excitement and the enthusiasm that everybody shared in it with us.
And to watch this idea that I think the biggest thing that I like to pat myself on the back and us on the back around is not necessarily the fact that we're hosts of the thing, which, and I love, me, I like to be a host. I like to
me too. It was
performer.
Fun.
But the thing that I really liked the most is how we were able to find the best team, the best performance team, the best production team that I've ever worked with. Ever.
Me too.
Okay, and I'm not just talking about Jeremy and Jason, but we're talking about Brad and Joe and
BC
and
production
Jake,
team,
the BCP Live production team, the folks from Encore Productions at the casino, even the union people, Stu from Electro-Voice, Mike from Electro-Voice, Jeff from Chauvet, and all these people that came together and actually worked together. And in the world of DJs, that's really a hard thing to make happen. That's a hard thing to even see happen, to actually have everybody set aside their egos and look at that basic premise of its intention and everybody working towards it in such a way that it really was a collaborative team effort. And with if one of those people would have fallen down, the whole thing would have fallen down.
Yeah, the commitment was just
crazy.
just crazy. The commitment to excellence on this was just incredible.
Yeah.
And I can't be prouder of you and everybody that I got to work with that really gave 110%, not to be cliche, but it really was, and showed up big. Everyone who came to make it big, and they showed up big.
Right.
And I believe that everybody experienced that.
Yeah, I think so too. It was great. I mean, it was as good as any theatrical experience I've ever been a part of. Any stage, backstage, front stage. It was just really, really exciting and fun to be a part of. And all we were hoping for was that the people that sat out there, that had paid a ticket to be a part of it, actually got what we were intending.
Right.
Not necessarily got what we were feeling, but got what we were intending, which was this was for them and about them.
Right.
So they could actually feel as if they were acknowledged and they were celebrated, because that was the real deal, and that's what we wanted. So, I mean, I think we did that from the things that I heard from people and the people who shook our hands. That's what I was hearing back to us. So I'm gonna say that's what we did. How's that?
That is what we did. I agreement. We have workshops coming up this year in November at Electro-Voice Headquarters. If you'd like to come and learn all these tools that went into creating this, to be able to create on your own on whatever scale. It's not just big events. Don't be like, I don't do big events. Any kind of event gives you the tools to create, eliminate risk, have things go. Because keep in mind, none of us had done this before.
No.
This was dress rehearsal and the opening night.
Well, no one
opening and closing
right.
night.
Well, and we had never done this before. But the thing about the workshop, and the reason that we have a workshop, is we have done this before. We just haven't done this for Mobile Beat before.
Right, with this context. The tools you can use, you get comfortable with the tools, and everything, even though it's completely new, is something that's familiar ground.
Yet another acknowledgement of the fact that that's how this worked.
As you put it together,
we always thought this is how it works, and then to be had something thrown at us again around something that I've hosted conferences before, but I've never been asked to actually design
and then host. Yeah,
right. And then I said, well, we're teaching this workshop, we might as well put our money where our mouth is, because I mean, it's supposed to be that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. We only do the one workshop in the United States a year so far, and it's and we try to do it right here in the Midwest, so that regardless of where you are in the country, it's easy to get to. And we do ours in November, and this year it's November 16, 17, and 18 in the Minneapolis area at the Electro-Voice Headquarters, which is really cool all by itself.
Right. You can contact us by email, through Facebook, or just by going to billcreates.com and signing up.
Absolutely.
The link is right below.
And we should say also that this was such a successful conference that they sold a pile of tickets like moments afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
That's never happened before.
There was a rush to buy
tickets for next year
to come back, because they were so.
It was really fun.
Excited.
So if you're planning to go next year, it's going to be in March next year, March 14th through the 17th. You want to look at your calendar and book that time out, because I think we've set a Mobile Beat on a course to be able to create cool, exciting, and interesting conferences for the next 20 years. And so if you loved this one, I'm sure you're going to love next year's as well. So if you want to buy tickets for that, you can go to mobilebeatlasvegas.com as well. While you're doing that, come over to billcreates.com and be a part of our workshop. We only take 16 people, though. So first come, first serve. Call us, email us, talk to us personally if you want to.
Right. And there's a lot of people that expressed interest at the conference.
Yeah,
so
there really were.
Don't sit on this, so you'll be sitting on it a long time, my friends.
Like I said, we only do this once a year.
Right. So that wraps it up for another Bill and Jason show. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out with us. Thanks for coming to the show at Mobile Beat. And if you missed it, well, we might have some video to share.
And if you want to go to our Facebook page, the Entertainment Experience Facebook page, there's lots of pictures from the conference. If you want to go to Mobile Beat Las Vegas, that Facebook page has lots of pictures there. You want to go to Bill and Jason Show, go to that Facebook page. Like us. Go to Twitter and follow, and then call Jason up. And his address is in Eagan.
Everything Bill said. So long.
Bye.
Broadcasting from high atop planet Earth. at a rate of 96 kilobytes sampled per second over the interweb in an effort to stop glorifying being busy. This has been an entertainment experience production.